Today on Locked On Red Wings, Lucas Raymond only scores big goals.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. I am your host, Brian Fisher. Scotty is off with his family for Thanksgiving, so he will not be joining us. But who needs him? We got an OT win to talk about. He said blood is thicker than podcasts. We don't need him. He can have his good Thanksgiving. We're here to celebrate an OT victory for the Detroit Red Wings over the Calgary Flames, a very red-hot Calgary Flames team. And we have so much to break down with this hockey game. Of course, I hope all of you have a great Thanksgiving, and Scotty included. You know I love him, and I'm just giving him crap. And this is a great way to kick it off with a Red Wings win, and then hopefully parlay that into a Lions victory on Thanksgiving, breaking that 7-year skid that they are on. But the Red Wings have kicked it off in the right way, and I'll lead off with my first thought as soon as I tell you who our title sponsor is today, and that is, of course, FanDuel. You can start this season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. You know, in one way, this is actually a terrible day for Scotty to miss, in that when the Red Wings win in an exciting fashion like that, my brain races. And not having Scotty here to kind of level me out, bring me back down, or even just bounce ideas off of, I'm afraid I'm going to talk a million miles a minute and just ramble on it. Well, I do that when Scotty's here regardless. But we'll try and stay on task today. First and foremost, Red Wings are back to 500 point percentage with the victory. I believe the record is now 11-11-2. Let me double check on that before. It's 10-10-2 rather through 22 games. Lucas Raymond scores in his fourth straight game. With an assist on the power play goal that DeBrincat scored. He is also back to a point per game. And Prashanth Iyer said it first on social media in the last game that the Red Wings won. Lucas Raymond only scores big goals, and that stayed true in this one. I'm already talking about Lucas Raymond, so I'll do a little bit of a reversal. I'll do difference maker first because it's absolutely Lucas Raymond, right? Like, the kid is incredible. He's now got 6 goals on the team on the year. I think that puts him at third. He's on pace for 82 points, and game in and game out, he is their best player in clutch moments. It's between he and Larkin, because Larkin obviously scores huge clutch moments as well. And he has been everything that he was sold to us as, and probably even better than when he was drafted at 4th overall. And at 4th overall, like, there's high expectations already. And he is just, his development as a hockey player has been such a blessing to watch that he's got 6 overtime goals in his career. I saw them flash this graphic on FanDuel Sports Network. He's got 6 overtime goals already in his career. That's 8th all time in Detroit Red Wings history. He's already 8th, top 10 in game-winning goals in overtime. It's honestly incredible that his growth as a player. We're blessed watching this kid every single night, and he's earned that contract, and I think he's living up to that contract early. I know there was a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Apprehension, not quite what I'm going for, but a little anxiety, I guess is the better word to use, when he didn't get off to a hot start with the goals. But at first it was just assists. He was a point per game with 1 goal on the season through like 13 games. And now suddenly in the last 7, the goals have started to come. 4 goals in his last 4 straight games is incredible. He's still producing assists. He has been not just the difference maker in this game, he has been one of the difference makers throughout the season. It's him, Dylan Larkin offensively on a nightly basis, and then it's who's ever in net on a nightly basis as well. And of course, I'll talk about Cam Talbot in segment 2. He was solid again, but I want to give a shout out too, when we get to that point, to the defense as well, making his life a little bit easier. So Lucas Raymond, what more is there to say absolute difference maker in this hockey game. He only scores big goals. I have a feeling that we're going to be saying that for a long time. So credit Prashanth Iyer for, at least as far as I could tell, saying it first on social media. He may have started a new trend with Lucas Raymond. First thought in this hockey game, I know I normally lead off with that, but I mean, if it's not Lucas Raymond, right? If I don't want to just rehash the entire conversation I just had, it would be deserved win. I know I said that for the game against the Islanders the other night, but this was another game just like that. This might have been one of their strongest 5-on-5 performances of the season. I know early in the game, it was all Calgary Flames up until that first power play, but after that, the Red Wings really took over. And if you look analytically speaking, the 5-on-5 metrics back that up. Even though the Flames pushed hard late in that game, the Red Wings still had a 72%, almost 73% of the expected goal share in the third period at 5-on-5. They had an 81% expected goal share in the second period, which I was talking about it as that period was going on, that they looked incredible in the second period, and they just couldn't bury the puck. Corsi for percentage, so shot attempt share, was 58 and 58 through the second and the third period. And of course, the real number, the actual raw data that people are going to care about most is the actual shot share. Red Wings had 66% of the shots at 5-on-5 in the second and 54% in the third. So after the first period, really after that first power play, the Red Wings started to turn things around, and it was one of their best 5-on-5 performances of the season. And I do hesitate to say it is the best because recency bias is a thing, but that was their most complete game at 5-on-5 that I can remember. Of course, it's half an hour after the game has ended, so it's the one that's top of mind, but they looked really good in this hockey game at 5-on-5, and they just couldn't bury the puck. I mean, I think I mentioned it, after 40 minutes, there was amazing chances for Joe Veleno backdoor. I think Rasmussen had two great chances, where he just could not elevate the puck after extending himself. And I'll talk about Rasmussen and that fourth line in segment 2 as well. Tarasenko rang one off the crossbar, and then he had a shot where Berggren couldn't get everything on the rebound. Like, they had a lot of opportunities in this hockey game to add to their lead. It's really Calgary, I almost said Carolina. Calgary was fortunate to get away from in this game with a point, because the Red Wings overall dominated that game. And that push late in the third period, I mean, that goal against in the third period, Larkin's got to know better than to do that on the face-off. Like, he's been penalized for that before. Again, pointed out by Prashanth on social media. He's got to know better than to do that. And he really cost the Red Wings that goal by taking that penalty. But I'm not going to beat up Larkin too much, because you could also say, well, the Red Wings should have had 2 or 3 more goals. They just had no finishing either, which is also true. But, I mean, overall at 5-on-5, they were great. And then special teams, also great in this game. I know people will say, hey, they gave up a power play goal late in the game that ended up being a tie. Yes, that's true. But they did go 3 for 4. There was a lot of special teams action in this hockey game, and the Detroit Red Wings looked fantastic on the penalty kill throughout the game. Even in the penalty kill in which they gave up the goal, they were making incredible efforts to clear the puck. JT Compher skating the puck out of the zone with a guy draped over his back. I think it was Simon Edvinsson made a dive to knock a puck away into the neutral zone as well. Incredible individual efforts, toppled on top of great positioning on the break-in. It was the same thing that they were doing very well in the game against the Islanders the other night, where they were standing tall at the blue line and preventing zone entries. And that's something that is just chef's kiss. Like, that is a phenomenal way of not getting scored on the penalty kills. Don't let him in the offensive zone. I know it's like, wow, gee whiz, that's a great revelation, but it worked for them against the Islanders, and it works for them again today, is stand tall at the blue line and don't even bend. You won't break if you don't bend at all. So they looked great on the penalty kill. Power play converted twice. They were 2 for 4, so they broke, 3 games in a row without scoring. I thought the Red Wings overall looked like the better team on the ice, and they got rewarded. They should have been rewarded more, probably, but that, again, continues to be a ongoing issue with this team, is the lack of scoring. And I think some of that will find its level, because we saw how many opportunities the depth players had in this game. Eventually, those opportunities are going to find the back of the net. But anyways, we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll talk about notable performers. So stay tuned to Locked On Red Wings. Got to talk to you guys today about FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Also, going to talk to you guys today about Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and so much more. And Game Time has a very, very convenient and helpful feature called All-In Pricing. It is a toggle on your screen that when you turn that toggle on, it's going to show you everything up front so you don't get any surprise fees at checkouts that maybe some of those other competitors might try to sneak in there at the very end. Just got to make sure you turn on that toggle. And of course, they got that lowest price guarantee. That means that Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find a better price for a seat somewhere else. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Excuse me, I had to take a sip there. Without Scotty here to bounce off of, I have to kind of time when I take those sips. So when it comes to notable performers, I think we should just best get this out of the way. Cam Talbot. He was fantastic again. 960 save percentage in this hockey game. Faced less than 30 shots, so the workload, I do want to talk about that because I thought the defensive effort in this hockey game was fantastic in front of him. But all season long, and they were talking about it, he's going to get looks for that Four Nations Cup. And as we approach, February, when this is going to take place, you start to wonder, he might actually be the guy. And it's hard to argue against that with how well he's playing. He's a top 10, maybe even top 5 goaltender in the league by save percentage. I'd have to double check on that, but he's been, in segment 1, I mentioned it. Larkin and Raymond have been huge difference makers offensively. But in that, the goaltending has been what's been winning you hockey games. And goaltending, well, I don't know if it won you this hockey game, and that's not a shot at goaltending. I just think the Red Wings played so well that there's a lot of credit to go around. Cam Talbot definitely was a huge help in that. I think his goal saved above expected was .89 in this, so it wasn't an astronomical amount, but it was still positive. And a lot of that has to do with how he plays the game, and he plays it very well, very steady. We've talked about it time and time again. I mean, there's not really anything else to add besides goalie good. Goalie good, boys. Goalie good. Phenomenal. Next difference maker. I want to talk about the fourth line. I thought the fourth line, Christian Fischer, every single one of these guys, we can highlight for a different reason or another. This was one of Michael Rasmussen. Ooh, if I can say it. This was one of Michael Rasmussen's best games of the season. He had a fantastic assist on Alex DeBrincat's first goal of the game. Alex DeBrincat's only goal, but the first goal for the Red Wings of the game, where that puck came down low and he spun and sent it backdoor to DeBrincat, who for once did not miss that opportunity, which was great to see because you need DeBrincat to score on those, and he did. But during the day, a lot of people saw Rasmussen on the power play and were like, what are we doing? But Rasmussen out front is actually where he is one of the strongest areas he is. A lot of his goals last season came from redirects out front. So putting him in the front of the net to corral that puck and feed the guy back door, that was actually a good play by Newsy, and it was a great call by, I think, Tanguay, who's in charge of the power play too, to put him in that situation, especially as we wait for Kane to come back, because that's going to cause your power play units to get a little bit of a shakeup. It worked out in that instance. It was a great play by him, but even at 5-on-5, that fourth line absolutely crushed it. As a line, they had 11 minutes of 5-on-5 ice time. Guys, that led the team. Of all their lines, more than the Dylan Larkin line, they had the most time on the ice as a line at 5-on-5, and they had an expected goals for percentage in this game of 73%. They were phenomenal. If you look at the individual breakdowns, they were great as well. Michael Rasmussen, had a expected goals for percentage of 82%. Andrew Kopp had an expected goals for percentage of 76%. And then it was Christian Fischer, who had an expected goals for percentage of, I think, 69. So each and every single one of those guys, analytically and by the eye test, were fantastic. Andrew Kopp was winning a ton of faceoffs in this hockey game, to the point where they were mentioning on the broadcast, he went 60% in the faceoff circle. And so if Scotty were here, between that and Dylan Larkin going 67%, he would be feasting, because that's his favorite statistic to talk about, is winning faceoffs. And wouldn't you know it, winning faceoffs goes a heck of a long way to winning possession and consistently having possession. But outside of that, like, Christian Fischer was, generating a lot of turnovers. He was winning races to the puck and winning that possession back after a dump and chase or a dump and change. He was doing a fantastic job. Both of those players had opportunities on 2-on-1s, but just couldn't bury it when the pass came across. They both deserved goals in this hockey game, but hey, they're contributing on the ice in plenty of ways. That was, honest to God, the most noticeable and best line that the Red Wings had in this game, the fourth line. And there's not a lot of times you can say that this season where their fourth line has been the best. Collectively, I mean, how much time on the ice did they actually have? I'm looking at this live while I talk with you guys. Christian Fischer had 14 minutes and 18 seconds of 5-on-5 ice time at even strength. That's close to the top of the team. I mean, that's more 5-on-5 ice time than Alex DeBrincat had in this hockey game. That's more than Jonathan Berggren. Obviously, it's not more than guys like Dylan Larkin, who's your captain, but that's second on the team next to your top line. They were using them in a lot of situations. Vice versa, I think your second line was probably your weakest in this hockey game. I felt like, even though Alex DeBrincat had a goal and an assist, that second line just really struggled to get a lot of momentum going. Tyler Mott, JT Compher, and Alex DeBrincat, obviously, they still had flashes. They still had moments where they looked good. But on a consistent 60-minute basis, I thought they were the one that looked the most flawed in this hockey game. Flawed's maybe not lacked the chemistry, and that was something that we were kind of worried about going in. But I'm also curious to see how they were utilized too. Because looking at the data, that line had the most defensive zone faceoffs of any of the lines. So I'm wondering if they were using that as a more defensive oriented line with both Mott and Compher on there to free up your Marco Kasper and Dylan Larkin line to have a little bit more offense. But I'd have to wait until tomorrow to see when Puck IQ updates to see if my gut feeling rings true, or if they just flat out had a poor game. So we'll talk about that when the time comes. Outside of that, Moritz Seider, Simon Edvinsson, fantastic in this hockey game. Simon Edvinsson, 27 and a half minutes of total ice time. He got a workout in this hockey game because of the fact that there was so much special teams. There was 4 power plays for both teams, and of course he's still going to get deployed the most at 5-on-5. He had 23 minutes of even strength hockey in this hockey game. That's, not just 5-on-5. That would include, of course, the overtime where it's 3-on-3. But 23 minutes, that's top pair minutes for an entire 60-minute hockey game at just even strength. That's how much he's relied upon. Simon Edvinsson came in second at 20 minutes and 51 seconds. I mean, they continue to do it all. Like, they are used in every situation, and they are good in every situation. Moritz Seider, of course, got an assist on the Lucas Raymond overtime goal. You love to see in overtime Raymond, Larkin, and Seider out on the ice. And we talked about it after the win over the New York Islanders, but like your youth, where we talk about your top producers being like the top players on your team. Well, it just so happens that the top players on your team are also some of the youngest players on your team. And so it's been super great to see them continue to thrive. So, I mean, there's not really a ton to say about Moritz Seider. He had 3 shots, 4 block shots, 2 hits. It was great. You love him. I love him. We all love him. Moritz Seider, Simon Edvinsson, and I'm sure it kind of stinks too because Simon Edvinsson has been so good, but because we're so exposed to Moritz Seider, I feel like we give him more credit than Simon Edvinsson. Simon Edvinsson, while he does need to work on taking care of the puck still, sometimes he still has issue like holding on to it for a little too long. He made a couple great plays. In the third period in particular, with that long reach of his, he reached to poke a puck in neutral territory away from defenders that created a 3-on-2 coming back in the offensive zone because he used that long reach. So, I mean, just huge shout out to both those guys, again, every single time. We're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, I will talk about our final noted performer I have on my sheet, and then we will talk about the Darren Dreger report that came out on Tuesday. So stay tuned to segment 3 of Locked On Red Wings. Got to talk to you guys today about Built Rewards. With the seasons changing, I'm already dreaming of a warm weather getaway. I love using points for travel, and I'm always looking for ways to earn more to book my next flight. Here's a life hack for you. Built lets you earn points on rent payments and redeem them towards your flights, hotels, and a lot more. One of your biggest investments should get you more than just a roof over your head. Let me explain. There's no cost to join Built, and as a member, you'll earn valuable points on your rent and on everyday spending. Built points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, and even the ones you haven't heard of. There are over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world you can redeem your Built points towards. Built can also be redeemed towards a future rent payment and unique experiences that only Built members access. So, if you're not earning points on your rent, my question is, why the heck not? Start earning points on your rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedon. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonnhl. Again, joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl to start earning your points on your rent payments. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. I almost made it through that entire read without slipping up. And then in the final line, I did. Give me one moment. Thank you. So, the last thing I want to talk about again was Albert Johansson and Justin Holl. This was another game where they were really heavily sheltered. And I want to say that as a preamble to what I'm about to say. They were really good in this hockey game. And they're getting utilized in that offensive zone all the time, but they look good in that role. And so if this is how this team can continue to produce offense by putting Seider and Edvinsson in the offensive zone, Albert Johansson and Justin Holl in the offensive zone, then, hey, if it keeps working, keeps working. I mean, there is a broader conversation that I want to have with Scotty about, like, what do you do with Gustafsson then? I guess the answer is just keep sitting him, but you don't want a guy you just signed it to a 2-year deal to end up being healthy. Wow, deja vu with Justin Holl. That was him all last season. But Holl has really done a nice job with Albert Johansson. They look good in the offensive zone. To note, of course, they only played like 10 minutes for Johansson and 14 for Justin Holl. They're not getting a lot of exposure, so their sample size is small, and the quality of competition they do play is not that great, and their deployments are very favorable. But in that extremely sheltered role, they look very solid. Of course, the downside of that means that, Sherratt and Jeff Petrie have to pick up a little bit more of the slack, and of course, Seider and Edvinsson pick up a lot more of the slack. And Jeff Petrie was credited with 7 giveaways in this hockey game. Man, I'm not going to rehash that whole conversation. I mean, Scotty and I talk about it all the time. There's not a solution at second pair, and that is going to be a huge problem that continues to plague this hockey team. But as it stands right now, you have your top pair. You seem to be figuring out a third pair you can work with. You just hope that Johansson can continue to develop to a point where you can, give them a little bit more defensive zone deployments, and they'll look fine in that role. Because as it stands, yes, they look good in an extremely sheltered role, but I don't think it's incredibly sustainable to have them be in that incredibly sheltered role. But for what it's worth, they looked really good in tonight's game in that role. Anyways, outside of that, there was a report from Darren Dreger on TSN on Tuesday that this homestand is incredibly critical to, and again, I'm paraphrasing, so don't take me word for word, go see the report for yourself, but that this homestand was critical to the Loans' future, and that if they could make a coaching change if it does not go their way. The report was also that if they do go for a coaching change, they'll probably go for an interim, which, given the market right now, seems to make sense. Not that I want an interim head coach. I'd love a big fish that doesn't have a spotty track record. But there's not a coach out there that I want at the moment. So I want a head coach. If we're going to make a head coaching change, I'm okay with them going for interim, but that would basically say an interim head. If at that point you're making a coaching change for an interim head coach, you're essentially saying, okay, this season isn't working. And that would suck. But the other part of that is to target, they'd go to an interim head coach to target a big fish in the offseason. And I'd have to look at the list again, but I would imagine that means Steve has ideas in mind of coaches on expiring contracts. That's where my first thought goes. I'd have to see who's on an expiring contract around the NHL if the game plan is already to target a big fish elsewhere. So I just wanted to bring that up. I am aware of it, and I would be super pumped if we could get a really well-renowned coach in the offseason. But, of course, in the short term, I want to keep winning hockey games. So, kind of torn, right? Long-term, short-term. But in the now, that was a really good game by the Detroit Red Wings. And that will extend Derek Lalonde's leash another day. So, yeah, that's about all I got for you guys today. Hope you didn't mind me talking to myself. Well, talking to you guys, but staring at myself on a webcam for the last 26 minutes. We will not have an episode on Friday because of Thanksgiving. I, myself, have 2 Thanksgivings to go to because now, being married and everything, I got 2 families. So, and Scotty being out in the boonies, he doesn't have any internet. So we're going to take a day off and enjoy the holiday, as I hope all of you do as well. So, with that being said, we ball, same time, same place. It's your team every day.